Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. I'm your host Chloe, and today we're diving into our ultimate student guide overview of English verbs. Seriously, think of verbs as the actual engines of our sentences. Without them, well, we literally go nowhere. So whether you're aiming to write those flawless essays or you just want to speak more naturally, mastering this engine is absolutely going to drastically improve your English fluency.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 5 key areas: mastering English verb tenses, regular versus irregular verbs, navigating ing and to infinitives, transitive and intransitive verbs, and finally, perfect subject-verb agreement. Let's get right into it.
All right, starting off with Section 1, Mastering English Verb Tenses, all about time and action.
So when you think about it, verbs map directly onto a timeline in 3 main ways. First, simple tenses. These show complete actions viewed as a whole, like I worked yesterday, done and dusted. Then we have continuous or progressive tenses, which really focus on the duration of an activity, an action in progress, like I was working when you called. And finally, we've got the perfect tenses. These are super fascinating because they actually bridge 2 entirely different time periods together. They show that an action is completed before another time or event, like saying, I have finished my work, so now I'm free. It's almost like a time machine for grammar.
Moving right along to Section 2, Regular versus Irregular Verbs. Let's look at shaping the engine.
Now, creating a regular past tense verb might seem as easy as just slapping an ed onto the end of a word, right? But to write accurately, you absolutely must master these 4 structural spelling rules. Consider this your essential study hack. Most of the time, yes, you just add ed. Easy. But if the verb ends in a silent e, like arrive, you just add the d. Makes sense. If it ends in a consonant plus y, like cry, you've got to change that y to an I before adding ed. And then there's the sneakiest one of all, the CVC rule. Consonant, vowel, consonant. If the stress lands on that final syllable, like in plan or stop, you literally have to double that final consonant before adding the ed. Don't let that one catch you out.
But of course, not all verbs play nicely by the rules. For irregular verbs, there's absolutely no magical ed rule to save us. You kind of just have to memorize them. But hey, don't panic. We can actually organize them into 3 distinct groups to make memorization way easier. Group 1, these are the lifesavers, where all forms stay exactly the same. Cut, cut, cut. Group 2 has the past and the participle the same. Buy, bought, bought. In Group 3, well, those are the rebels. All 3 forms are completely different. Go, went, gone. Seriously, grouping them like this when you study is going to save you hours of frustration.
All right, on to Section 3, Navigating ing and to infinitives, the tricky patterns.
Okay, this is what I like to call the golden list. These are the specific verbs that almost always demand an ing form right after them. If you're using verbs like admit, avoid, enjoy, or suggest, that very next verb needs to end in ing. So you'd say, I enjoy swimming, right? Never I enjoy to swim. Or she suggested meeting for coffee. Memorizing this specific list is just a massive shortcut to sounding incredibly fluent.
But here's where things get really intriguing. What happens when certain verbs can take both the ing and the to forms? Does the actual meaning of the sentence change?
Well, take the verb stop, for example. The meaning drastically shifts depending entirely on the pattern you choose. It's a huge distinction. If you use stop plus ing, like stop talking, it means to quit an activity completely. The talking is over. But if you use stop plus a to infinitive, like he stopped to talk to me, it means he interrupted what he was already doing, maybe walking down the street, in order to perform a brand new action, talking. So one tiny structural choice creates 2 completely different realities. How wild is that?
Next up is Section 4, Transitive and intransitive verbs. Time to transfer the action. So, a transitive verb is essentially an action that's just incomplete without a direct receiver. It demands to transfer its energy over to a direct object. To spot it, all you have to do is ask the crucial question, what or whom, right after the verb. For instance, she bought. Wait, bought what? The sentence needs an answer to make sense. She bought a car. The car is receiving the action of being bought.
On the flip side, intransitive verbs stand perfectly on their own. They don't transfer action to anything else at all. Think about the sentence, the sun rises. Rises what? Well, nothing. The
The sentence is totally complete just like that. Now sure, we can add adverbs or prepositions to explain how or when it happened, like the sun rises in the east, but in the east is just telling us where, it's not receiving the action of rising.
And you know, context is everything here. A lot of verbs can easily adapt based on how you're using them. Think about this. She sings pop songs. Sings what? Pop songs. Boom, it's transitive. But then look at she sings beautifully. Sings what? We don't actually know. Beautifully is just telling us how she sings. So in that case, the exact same verb is functioning purely as an intransitive verb.
Now pay super close attention here, because even native speakers mix up these specific action-transferring pairs all the time. Getting these right will seriously set you apart. So, lay is transitive. You have to lay something down, like lay the book on the table. But lie is intransitive. You just lie on the sofa yourself. It's the same thing with raise and rise. You raise your hand, but the sun rises on its own. You set the table, but you sit in a chair. If you can master these tricky pairs, your grammar is going to be impeccably polished.
And finally, Section 5, Perfect Subject-Verb Agreement. Let's keep this engine running smoothly. All right, this brings us to the golden rule of agreement. Match a singular subject with a singular verb, and a plural subject with a plural verb. Sounds simple enough, right? But you've got to remember this quirky little trick about English. Unlike nouns, which usually get an S added when they're plural, singular verbs are actually the ones that strangely end in S. Think about it. The cat eats versus the cats eat. Kind of backwards, but so important to remember.
Also, notice how collective nouns, words for groups of people like team, family, or staff, they magically adapt their verbs based entirely on the context. If the group is acting as one single unified unit, you go with a singular verb. The team has a new coach. But, and you see this a lot in British English, if you're emphasizing the members acting as individuals, you switch to a plural verb. The team are arguing about the strategy. It's all about the focus.
Finally, because English just loves to throw us curveballs, you need to memorize these sneaky irregulars. Words like people, children, and especially police don't end in an S, but they absolutely demand plural verbs. Saying the police is outside is such a common mistake, but you definitely want to avoid it. It should always be the police are outside. And then on the flip side, words like the news end in an S but take a singular verb. The news is important. Sneaky, right?
And there you have it. Mastering these structural blocks really shifts English from just being some subject you study in a textbook to a powerful tool you can confidently wield in the real world. By truly understanding the engine of the language, you are now totally equipped to express your ideas with clarity and precision. So, as you stare down your next essay or prep for your next big conversation, ask yourself, is your engine running smoothly, or is it time for a quick tune-up? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep practicing.